Okay, welcome everybody. I'm from Goldhar. I'm learning and start Time4Mishna here in Passaic, New Jersey. And it's a great honor and supposed to be part of the program. Thank you, Rabbi. Oh no, someone is, 1 second. I don't know what happened here. Okay, well, I don't know what that marking is, but we will get going with the Zoom. Close, cautious. Great to be here with Time4Mishna. Yishkoy for everybody for joining, for Rabbi for starting this remarkable project, and for all the Bachrim who participated in Time4Mishna to date. You know, 3/5 Siddharim have been completed, so you've paved the way for all of us to join this program, and it's very, very exciting. And in keeping with the first Mishnah we saw in brachos today, that there's a hint to Zerizas, that the Kohanim are jump in the moment they can eat their truma, the moment the sun sets. Being that we're starting the program, this is the time for all of us to be Zerizim and get the word out. Let people know that it's an opportune time to start as we begin Shas Mishnayos with the Seder's Royim. Okay, so I'm going to be giving a session today on how to remember your learning. And the one thing I just want to say that there's two ways that we can read the name of the program, Time4Mishna. Many people, when they say Time4Mishna, might think that it's about making time for Mishnah. And I want to suggest that it's really the opposite, that our time is for Mishnah. That's really, as we've learned from Shema, Ikar Diburim, our primary talk, Klal should be our learning. And therefore, it's amazing how much we can accomplish with all the time we have. And today I'm going to talk about maximizing what we learn and how to remember what we're learning so we can use our time wisely. And the goal by the end of today's session, I'm going to focus on one specific klal and method, but by the end you should be able to review masechet brachos, at least on an overview level, in less than a minute. Exactly, actually 57 seconds to go through the entire masechet in an overview level, and we're going to talk about that. So, I'm going to focus on Simanim, but before we do, I don't know why I have this annotation on. 1 second. Clear. Okay, here we go. So I want to first start with a major misconception about memory. I've been involved with working on remembering my learning for many, many years, and it's expanded to how people use memory in many different facets of learning and work and so on. But there's a major misconception about memory, and it's so important to get rid of this misconception because it gets in the way of what we think we can accomplish. And what is the misconception? It's that people think if you can't remember everything, you can't remember anything. You know, if I just can't remember what I learned today, I can't remember anything. And we go through a daf, I can't remember everything, I can't remember anything. We somehow put a statement on our memory capacity and what we think we can accomplish by saying if we can't do it all, and we can't hold on to everything, then we have a weak memory. So I'm sorry, give me a moment, someone's annotating. I want to stop this. Okay, clear. Okay, so what's the good news? The good news reality is if you can remember anything, you can eventually remember everything. It's very important. If you can remember anything, you can eventually remember everything. You just have to do it step by step and in a certain order, but all of us can remember a lot. We have our entire lives that we've been through, many things we've learned, and no, we remember a lot. And if you can remember anything, you can ultimately remember everything. It's just, don't start with everything as your goal, because it's just not the way our minds really work, unless we have like a photographic memory. But otherwise, it's just doing it in order. And therefore, today I want to show you how powerful and how much we can accomplish and really break through in terms of the Mishnayos we're learning the program and this week's learning by just focusing on if I can remember anything, I can eventually remember everything. I just have to do it step by step. I think the best place to start is with Simanim. You know, it says, Simanim, it says, in Dvarim, Ba'ata Kisu Chem Zashira Zos, by the very end, Moshe Rabbeinu is told to write the Torah down as a shira, V'lamdas b'nei Yisrael b'sima b'fihem. Put it in their mouths. Now, how do you put Torah Sheba'al Peh in someone's mouth? It's not shaykh to put it in someone's mouth because it's not mila b'mila. So we're told, al tikra sima al simana, that the way we hold our learning is by creating simanim markers, a filing system, so that we have a place to access what we've just learned. And you see this often. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced what I call learning blur. Learning blur is that experience that, you have a Seder, you're learning the Chavrusa, you do Daf Yomi, whatever you're doing, Time4Mishna, and then you get up and everything starts to blur. So you can't, if someone asks you, like, what did you learn today? It would be not necessarily easy to recall it. It could be a few days later, you might be thinking like, it's all a blur, and you can't remember, was it 2 days ago, 3 days ago? And then we know what happens over time. Things just start to fade away completely, or they just leave trace elements of what we learned, but not in a way that's accessible. So we can get rid of this experience of learning blur by starting with the basics, which is by making simanim. And today I want to show you how we're going to do it. I'm going to apply it very straight to what we're accomplishing, and we'll talk about the benefits and techniques, and you can ask me questions at the end. Okay, so simanim are just markers. They're just filing systems, names for things we've learned, and we put it into order, and by using it, for example, in our case of brachos, you'll see how amazing it helps us map out what we've learned. So besides having a file name, by putting these file names together into an overall package, into an overall map, we not only get a way to access what we've learned, but we get to put our learning in context, which is really the most powerful thing we need when we learn, is to see the seder of things. Because when you put things in structure, then they hold. If you're trying to hold on to things randomly, then they just sort of, get tangled up, or they loosen up and go away. But by actually packaging it in an organized way, you not only access what you've learned, but you actually put it in context. So let's start right now, all right? So brachos, I prepared this just as a way to get us all up to a good foundation. We have 9 prakim and brachos. There's 9 prakim, and we're going to organize them. The first 3 prakim deal with Kriya Shema. All right, so we're in the midst of Kriya Shema for the next couple of days, and then Dalet and Hey, Perek and Dalet and Hey is Tefillah, and then the last 4 prakim are going to deal with brachos, various issues of brachos, foods, zimun, birchas hamazon, miscellaneous brachos, kiddush and Netilas Yadayim Havdalah. We'll go through that, but already we have a way of organizing masechet brachos on a big picture level. There's 9 prakim, and once again, the first 3 prakim are Shema, next 2 are Tefillah, and the last 4 are brachos. So that's an example of making simanim. We just made a very simple file name for a block of material, and we're going to start to build on it. So let's review together. And I muted you all, but just play along with me here. We have 9 prakim in brachos. The first 3 prakim deal with, and you should say, Shema. The next 2, Dalet and Hey, deal with Tefillah. And the next 4 deal with brachos. That's it. Shema, Tefillah, and brachos. And another way to make a siman is by using numbers. So I have it graphically laid out here because you kind of get to see the map. But once we know this, we can make this very, very easy to remember. I use phone numbers like 324. So brachos is 9 prakim. The first 3 prakim deal with Shema, 2 deal with Tefillah, and the last 4 with brachos. Now, does this mean we know all of Masechtas brachos? Absolutely not. All we know right now is that there are 9 prakim divided into 3 groups, 3 prakim for Shema, 2 for Tefillah, 4 for brachos. But guess what? If you can remember that, you can get to the next level, and you can get to the next level. So you got to start somewhere. So let's start with the big picture first, because then what we're learning from this point on is going into this picture. Because I always say when people learn, the mistake they have is when they learn something, there's 2 options where it's going in your mind. It's either going somewhere into the clutter in your brain, or it's going to someplace distinct that you put it in a place so you could find it later on. And most people, unfortunately, when they're learning, they're just letting all that learning get built up into clutter in their mind's eye, instead of just putting it somewhere so they can easily retrieve it. So in our case, we have our opening shot at remembering Masechtas brachos, something very simple and basic. So let's review. There we go, one more time, and then I'm going to go by turn. Here we go. 9 prakim. First 3 deal with Shema, next 2 deal with Tefillah, and the last 4 deal with brachos. Okay? These are sample simanim just for the prakim. Now what we're going to do is we're going to, and I've produced, Roe is going to be sending out on the text of Mishnayos the name, the siman for each Mishnah, but I'm also going to suggest, Roe, that we're going to put out a sheet, one sheet that has all the simanim on it, because you'll see that's going to be very, very helpful on seeing the entire masechet as a whole and remembering simanim. But now we're going to go to the next level. All right, so here we have brachos, the actual masechet. And all we know at this point is 9 prakim divided into 3 sections, 3, 2, 4. So here we have now our map of masechet brachos as we start out. And I find, for me, it's very helpful to get a sense of, okay, where am I going? How long is it going to take? What are the basic moving parts? And whatever I'm learning, go step by step by filling in a picture, as opposed to what I call linear learning. Many people, when they learn, it's like linear. They start, daf base, then they'll get to daf gimel, and then they'll get to daf talid, and they're piling up dafim, so to speak, but they're not putting it into an overall context, because they're not clear what the context is. But in our case, we're starting in masechet brachos, so even though we just did the first 4 Mishnayos, we know tomorrow we're going to finish the first parak, and we'll be on to parak base, and we're going to be filling in a map, so by the end, all the learning in brachos is going to fit on this page, so that we could see the entire masechet in our mind's eye in a very organized way. And this is what Simanim does. So again, it doesn't just give you, they don't just give you a way to access what you've learned, but they help you organize what you've learned and create an inventory. Because the Chofetz Chaim says in Torah Sabah, he said, you got to treat your learning like a business. And the first thing a businessman does is he takes his inventory. So this gives us a very good way to be able to keep track of what we know, how well we know it, and we'll talk about this more in hopefully future sessions of doing things like this. But let's get straight into it. So what I'm suggesting as you go through Time for Mishnah, aside from learning the 4 Mishnayos each day, just put a little extra effort in by coming up with a siman, a name for each Mishnah. So I did this for today's Mishnayos. So for example, if you weren't the session, we have the first Mishnah I call Kriya Shema ba'arvis. Right? Just that's what's dealing with Kriya Shema at night. Mishnah base, Kriya Shema b'shachris. Pretty straightforward. The third Mishnah I called, actually I'm going to change that to the derech. I put a yatu, the lying down, but I would change that to the derech of how to say Kriya Shema. Should you say it lying down in the evening and up? Right, according to Beis Shammai, or however, whatever way you are, according to Shittas Beis Hillel. So I'm going to change that to derech. And Daled is brachos Kriya Shema. I call it brachos. It's brachos Kriya Shema, but the brachos of Shema. And the idea of a siman is it should be short and sweet, ideally a word or 2. The goal of a siman is not to help you remember everything in a Mishnah. And you're going to have Mishnayos. Today's Mishnayos.
Please hold.
Can you hear me? 1 second. Yeah, I just want to make sure. Can you hear me all? Because I got a.
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, good. Okay, so the goal of a siman is not to trigger everything in a Mishnah. Though it's going to be certain Mishnayos, it's going to have more parts to it. But the goal of the siman isn't to be the way you're going to remember every single thing. You just want to have whatever you've learned under a certain file name. And over time, as we do Chazron Mishnayos, you'll connect more and more the content of the Mishnah to the siman. But the idea is that we want to get the simanim down. Once we come up with them, a word or 2, we want to get them down well. So first step is just to come up with them. And the second step is to committing them to memory. Now I have, my rule of thumb is, on average, you should take about a second to review a siman. So in our case, Kriya Shema ba'arvis, Kriya Shema b'shachris, derech, and brachos, 4 seconds. And if we do this at that pace, by the time we get to parak test, by the end of the masechet, we'll have 57 Mishnayos, which to review the simanim will take about 57 seconds to review. So under a minute, you could keep track of what's inside the masechet. Now you might be thinking, I'll tell you a story. When years ago at Nation Torah in Yerushalayim, I taught a class on Chumash Simanim. And the goal was to go through the entire Chumash inside, and every single psuch and stuma of the Chumash, of which there are, I think, 668 of them, we gave a title to every single one. We made Simanim. So, Brachos, Or, Rikia, Yami, Moros, Opus, Shabbos, Chet, Ishi, Kusha, Kain, and so on. There are 93 Simanim for Sefer Brachos. And I remember I was giving this shiur, and I had someone actually from London, a beloved Talmud of mine, and I was pitching him on coming into my course. And then I told him, you're gonna know Brachos once you go through this. We're gonna go through it inside, and you'll have these 93 words. And he said to me, 93 words? 93 words? What am I going to know with 93 words? It doesn't make sense. And the reality is, it sounds like it doesn't make sense. And how could he say for 57 words, you're going to really know masechet brachos? It's not the 57 words you're going to know. You're going to have 57 files organized into 9 major files for each parak, divided into 3 major groups. The first 3 big chat, procking together, and the next 2. And you're going to be, the more you go through the Mishnayos, the more you're going to be able to remember what's in the file name. But every time you do Chazorah, there's a major difference for people who have Simanim, for people who don't have Simanim. Because if you have a Siman, every time I'm learning the Mishnah, I'm taking that knowledge, that Havana, and I'm connecting to my brain to the file name. But if I go through Mishnayos, and I didn't give it an address, every time I go through it, even though I'm understanding the Mishnah as I'm reading through it, it's not being packaged in my mind in a clear, succinct way. So what we want to do is we want to come up with these simanim, and by the end, you'll see with the chazoras, what we do each week and so on, I'll be able to ask you, hey, where do we learn Kriya Shema b'Shachris? And you'll go, oh, first parak, second Mishnah. Where do we learn about brachos Kriya Shema? You're going to go, oh, first parak, fourth Mishnah. And you're going to be able to do that for the entire masechet, because it's all mapped out in your mind in a very organized way. So that's the basics of making simanim. Again, just looking for the major topic of a Mishnah. If there's a number of things, I find usually choosing the first topic in a Mishnah. There might be a few in Yanim, but using the first, because that helps me then see everything that follows. If I have found for myself, if I choose a topic in the middle of a Mishnah, my brain can kind of go back. It doesn't go backwards, but it only goes forwards. But that's the idea. Now, one question that everybody should might have is, should we make our own simanim or use the same simanim? So the bottom line answer is, do whatever you want, right? That whatever works for you, that's the golden rule. Whatever works for you. When I started teaching simanim, I had to memorize Chumash Mishnayos using simanim. I was a big fan of come up with your own simanim, whatever works for you. There's different ways that our minds relate to remembering things, and hopefully in another session we'll talk about more of that. But that's what I did. But after a few cycles, I found that we standardized simanim with a group, a chabura. There is a major advantage, and that is everybody can reference, is using the same reference system, so you can kind of buddy up, and if you see someone in the program, you can fire off questions, and everybody's using the same simanim, so you can contest each other, and there's a tremendous benefit to that, because everybody can test each other. And if I say, hey, where do we have brachos Kriya Shema, and he says brachos, first pair, fourth Mishnah brachos, that's Siman, then we're talking the same language, and we can do much more together as chabrusas and as chabura. So I am going to encourage you to try the standardized simanim that we're putting out. See if it works for you. It just will give you the benefit of wherever you go in the world where people are learning Time for Mishnah. You can be a bucking shots, but we can all test each other, because I found the major fuel, the thing that gives you the biggest charge when you do this make simanim, is when you come across something and either, oh, I remember exactly what that is. It's in first parak, second Mishnah, Kriya Shema b'Shachris. We talk about Telos and Lavan and Carson. So either you see something and you're able to refer to it, or, and as importantly, when you have someone testing you, hey, where's this? Where's that? When they can open up the secta, and just by your being able to answer the questions, it does a tremendous help for boosting our confidence and being able to do this. you get a great charge. And the fuel in the tank for Simanim is not necessarily just having them, but it's more importantly using them. And one way to use them, just being tested, like where to say this, where to say that. And the more you do it, you'll be amazed what you're able to do and how much you can build with it, and so on. The one last thing I want to mention about the benefits of Simanim, benefit number one is that you get to find what you've learned. You have a file for it. Two is you've mapped out your learning so you see everything in context. But the third major benefit of it is now that you have a way to access all this material in an organized way, then you take your learning of whatever you're learning to the next level. Because one of the biggest pain points in learning, at least for me, is when I have to find a makor for something, I don't know where it is. It's very frustrating because it creates tremendous drag. I can't just turn to someplace in the Chumash, or I can't turn to someplace in the masechet and pull it out. And we all know that the moment we feel a little bit of pain, then we feel like with the Yetzer Hara kind of just settles in and creates resistance. But when you can, sorry, someone is drawing on the screen here. 1 second, I'll figure out next time how to get rid of the annotations. There, I'm drawing. There you go. So it's going to help you move more quickly in learning because you're going to have everything in your hands, which is the goal. Once you have all your Mishnayos, you know where it is and you have it and you understand it and you can easily find it, declare, then you're going to go that much faster. So it's going to really help your learning. My suggestion is, how should you chazan Mishnayos, like today's Mishnayos? Say them down. Kriya Shema ba'arvis, Kriya Shema b'shakris, derech. I'm going to change that to derech and brachos or brachos Kriya Shema. Practice saying it to yourself and get them down. It's 4 words or so, 4 different things, very easy. And you want to get it to the ABCs. Now, I've found when I ask people to, say the ABCs, everybody can do it. A, B, C, D, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P. It's fast and easy. Excuse me. Apologize. You can go through the ABCs and like that. Simanim's the same thing. You want to be able to go like, my Simanim, Oriki, Kriya Shema ba'arvis, Shakris, Derech, brachos. You want to do it so that it's fluent and effortless. And it has to be effortless. So you don't want to go through Simanim where it's okay, we're doing brachos Simanim, and the first one is Kriya Shema ba'arvis, and the next one is Kriya Shema b'shakris. That's too slow. You want to get to the point where you can go like Kriya Shema ba'arvis, Kriya Shema b'shakris, derech, brachos, where you're not really even thinking, because it's going to build. And if you think about it, I didn't do the math. I meant to do the math today, but we have 225 Mishnayos, thinking Shah. So, 5,000 seconds, about going through Simanim, it's going to start to build. But if you get them down glot, just, boom, 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 they're really going to start to build, and it won't be painful. It'll be enjoyable. But you can see that what you can accomplish in going through our learning like this is with Simanim is tremendously helpful. Mention one last thing, and then I'm going to open up for questions if you want to put it in the chat. There are 2 types of learners. I found that there's 2 types of learners. There's inside learners. Inside learners are people who, when the Sefer is open, the Gemara is open, you can learn. The Chumash is open, you can learn. But the moment you close the Sefer, like we said before, it starts to blur out. And that's a shame. Well, we don't want that. There's the other type of learner, it's an outside learner. An outside learner is someone who can close the Sefer, and wherever he is, outside in the belt, he can remember his learning. So Simanim will give you that capacity. You go through this 4 Mishnayos a day and say Kriya Shema ba'arvis, Kriya Shema b'shakris, derech, brachos, then you've given yourself a way outside the Mishnah to chazan your learning. And again, that's really where the time and the Mishnayos pick up in terms of the program. So I'm going to quickly review what we did. 1 second. And then I'm going to take some questions. You see some people have some questions. Here we go. Major misconception. People think if you can't remember everything, you can't remember anything. And I'm telling you, I've met thousands of people who are convinced they don't have good memories because they just can't seem to remember everything all at once. And the reality is, if you can remember anything, you can ultimately remember everything. Just do it step by step. So in our case, with brachos, with Simanim, we have the first 9 prakim in brachos. The first 3 deal with the Shema, the next 2 deal with Tefillah, and the last 4 deal with brachos. And we'll build this. I'm going to give you more detail as we go along here, but just as a beginning, and we can remember it 3-2-4. That's it. Brachos, the code is 3-2-4 for the basic organization. Then we have, of those 9 prakim, the first 4 Mishnayos. The first Mishnah is Kriya Shema b'Arvis. Next is Kriya Shema b'Shachris. And then we have Derech. I'm going to change it to Derech. And then brachos. Okay. The benefits are, A, you can find in your head because you put it somewhere. You have a file for it, so it's easy to find. B, you have a big picture organization of the entire masechet. So you're not limited by looking at each, Mishnah out, without seeing the whole. You're seeing the whole from the beginning and you're filling it in step by step. That's going to develop your Havana for the masechet. Thirdly, it's going to give you the ability to advance in all your learning, because then all your Mishnayos are organized, easy access, and that's just going to cut out a lot of the times that you're looking for things, or it's going to stop you from not trying to find something because it's too painful, because you know where it is. And fourthly, once you do this, you have a way to close the Mishnayos once you finish learning it, and then walk outside and continue the learning with Simanim. So that's the beginning part of Simanim. I'm going to just open this up here to chats. This is my first time using this Zoom software, so please excuse me for here. Okay, let me go. Do you have any questions? Let's see, any questions? You can type it in the chat. Oh, 1 second. 1 second. Any questions? Let me just see. Second. Let's see if I can find any questions. I'm sorry, I'm looking just, where do we find the questions on this? I saw Yaakov Myers had a question. A sec.
Way already.
Okay, I'm going to unmute. I've muted you. So everybody keep in mind that I've
Shut up, Zevi.
But any questions? Anybody have any questions?
Wouldn't it be better to have brachos Kriya Shema instead of Kriya Shema?
Yeah, you can put brachos Kriya. Yeah, you can put brachos Kriya Shema. I didn't, only because we know we're dealing with Shema. That's why. So I just. Yeah, you can.
I'm getting pictures off from my friends.
And I mean, because otherwise you could just do b'Shachris or b'Arvis. If you take out Kriya Shema.
Well, I'll tell you, it's a good question. Can I ask you, what's your first name?
Zev.
Zev. Right, Zev's asking you a question. Why do you put Kriya Shema? I could just put Arvis Shachris. The reality is, Zev, I actually do that. Once I know we're talking about Kriya Shema in the first parak, so I would, simplify it to Arvis Shachris. It's much easier, faster on the lips to say Arvis Shachris. But, but it's a shikol das. And I put Kriya Shema because people are starting out. Kriya Shema Arvis, Kriya Shema Shachris. But Kriya Shema, maybe I'll do that for now. But the reality is that once you know the simon, sometimes it's just easier and faster just to.
Well, what did you say just now?
But whatever works.
Also, the third Mishnah, Derech, it's really more position. I don't know what the Hebrew word for position is.
Well, that's why I did put that, I think, on the English. I have English Simanim. I put Derech because I find that if I use words in the Mishnayos, they trigger the words better. That's why I put Yatu. Because Yatu gets you to think vividly of someone lying down, and that gets you into the machlokas. If I abstract it into
what number has the delete on it?
Something, outside the Mishnah, I wanted to get the benefit of the overall concept, but sometimes it doesn't hook you straight into the Mishnah.
I know how it's spelled, but the one I have on the keyboard, to what number is it?
And whether the derech is lie down or not, or however you do it, But again,
Oh, yeah, I know, but where's
whatever
that say? Which
works
one?
for you, do.
Yeah, it sounds like
You know, and if there's, sometimes I'll think about it. If you want to suggest a different Mishnah, I'll throw it out for those on the WhatsApp group. I'll throw it out there. And if I say, let's change it to that, I'll change it to that gladly, whatever the consensus will be. So I'll put these out, and if there's, if someone wants to suggest something better, I'm definitely open, and I'll put it out to the group and gladly change it.
Are you going to put out masechet by masechet or week by week?
I'm going to put out, right now I'm going to do it, we'll see. I thought right now I don't want to start people out like getting overwhelmed. So I just started with like this week's material, and we can finish brachos very, 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 very shortly. So I thought we'd start like week by week, but because I find when you get more than what you have to go right now, people get a little overwhelmed. So
yeah,
that's my experience.
Thank you.
Any other questions from anybody? Any questions?
No, there is.
Okay, so, we are going to.
But can you do it after? Because I'm going to work. I'm not going to be on
Okay, we're going to finish up then. I want to encourage everybody that being today's day number 1, to let people know. Just get the word out.
I'll give you the money and go by.
To get started out, even though it's the first day. Not too late to let people know time for Mishnah. So, Mitzvah Shem, there's a lot more to share about
Please hold.
the door and so on.
1 second.
Money because it's easy to do and the benefits are remarkable, and you get going, and Mitzvah Shem will sign brachos together and have it down as a chabura, and we'll just keep starting until we cross multiple finish lines. So once again, yeshua to Rabbi, and always email me if you have questions that you don't want to necessarily put on the WhatsApp group. You can email me directly. I'm happy to try to answer them. My email is agoldhar@gmail.com. agoldhar@gmail.com.
How often we have these meetings? How often? Once a month?
Actually, Rabbi, are you on the line?
Yeah.
So really, I'm going to suggest, I'm happy to do this right now once a week. We'll have another one if you set it up. If this is a good time.
I'm going to get you.
And I think definitely for the first 2 weeks, I'm happy to do it weekly.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think the more Yosotos people get down, the better. At the same time, doing it weekly gives you a chance to put into action money, and then I'll add the next layer. Because I'm telling you guys, even though I showed you today is the basis of
but I only need it for 2 seconds.
there's so much that we can do with this.
If you're going to be
Really
literally
just
2 seconds, then I mean 1, 2.
of what we
No,
can
not
accomplish
minutes.
time
Minutes, not more than
using
minutes.
this and other
Okay,
techniques. So if you're game, I'm happy to set one up for next week, and we'll just keep adding. Then I recorded the session, so it'll be Mr. Shem. Really could post it on Time for Mishna.
Should we do it at the beginning of the week or the end of each week?
I'm sorry?
Should we do it for the previous week or the coming week?
You mean for the Simanim or for the learning principle?
Yeah, meaning should we have the Simanim already before we learn the Mishnayos? Or should we
So I actually sent Rabbi the Simanim already for this week, the first 20 Simanim. So Rabbi, I am going to suggest that in addition to putting it on the text of the Mishnah, just to format the sheets I gave you to send it out to people, so they have it organized on one sheet like I have it on the screen. It's not too much trouble, but it'll be a big help. So hopefully you'll get the 20 Simanim at the beginning of the week. And as you learn them, you'll use them.
Is Rabbi the one who gives the shear?
Rabbi is the one who gives the shear.
Excellent shear. Extreme clarity.
Thank you.
Who's that? Can I ask you this?
Zev.
Amazing. Me.
We got great leadership with Rabbi. So
Just take on when you look.
Mr. Shem. All right, so we're gonna close it here. Let me know if this is helpful. And again, any question, you can email me at Goldhar, Goldhar@gmail.com. And there's a WhatsApp group for those who are unaware. For any questions, clarification, you can join that group. For those who have access, and we can get together as a chabura, we can contact one another, and at the same time contact the rest of Klal Yisrael to make Time for Mishna. So that's it for today for Time for Mishna's episode number 1. And
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Take care.
Oh,
Bye.
okay.